What is up, everybody? I'm NoLexGiven, and today we're going to be taking a look at Classic Merlin. We just got a brand new update to the board in Storybook Brawl, so I figured now is a good time to revisit some classic comps, some things that we've covered a bunch on the channel with a brand new look. So today we're going to look at Classic Merlin, and what I mean when I say Classic Merlin is typically ballless mages. We're just gonna pick up as many mages as we can, cast as many spells as we can, and you can see that makes some pretty big characters. So we're gonna see how far we can scale these guys up. We've got a 6/6 Wizard's Familiar on turn 2. That is rivaling frogs at this stage of the game with our little cat in the hat here. So pretty nice stuff, and we're just gonna keep on getting those as big as possible. Typically, Classic Merlin revolves around picking up as many monster books as you can, and that's definitely going to be a part of this one too. We get to keep our magic research on this turn, so that's really nice as well. And then I'll go with a forbidden fruit to just add a little bit more stats to the board. Even so, I throw in a roll after that. Wasn't super excited by anything in that shop. And then on this turn, I suppose I will pick up a tiny, and we do have some decisions to make because we're up against a Sadrak. So the question is, do I think that my 7/7 Wizard's Familiar can hold at bay whatever this undefeated Sadrak has for us? So I'm going to go with no, and I'm going to sacrifice this tiny in the front row, and I'm glad that I did, because that vampire would have eaten our Wizard's Familiar. Now, it still basically winds up eating it, but we do still get to walk away from that one with a win. So pretty nice stuff. Now we see a Turkish Delight on 3.0, and while this is a little bit aggressive, I'm going to pick up the Cindy and the Turkish Delight, and the main reason that I do this, I mentioned Monster Book. I want to get to level 4 as soon as possible. While you're on level 2 playing Merlin, the only thing that you can really do to improve your overall game plan is roll specifically for mages, Wizard's Familiar, and Spellweaver, because those things are going to scale a lot once you find a monster book. But where you really start to pop off is when you find that monster book, because it's just so many stats. Getting to give a +1/+1 to something random every turn. Monster book is already one of my favorite characters. I think one of the better units in the game, and just adding a little bit more on top of that is definitely worth a little bit of damage from that fight. And then we get to pick up a Spellweaver. So pretty nice stuff here. I will fire off a Mix-a-Wizzle probably on the Wizard's Familiar, just to cast a little bit more spells and spread some love around. And that gives us a Shadow Assassin, a 10/12 ranged character for the turn. So that's pretty good as well. And then I'm just going to pick up a Baby Dragon, and that'll give my ranged characters a little bit less likelihood of getting attacked into, at least like the Spellweaver in the front. I do talk about this a lot on Merlin as well, and I'm doing a good job of it, playing only 6 characters on 3.2 still, but I don't hate that when I'm playing Merlin. If you've got extra characters on your bench, those are just extra characters for your Merlin triggers to hit onto, and I'd much rather just not have those there, so that way the characters that I know I'm going to be sticking with are more likely to get those free +1/+1s occasionally in the combat. So that's kind of the plan here. Nothing that we can cast this Wormroot on, though I am somewhat eyeing up the Sporko, and then also eyeing up a Friendly Spirit. While Friendly Spirit isn't a mage or a monster book, it is a nice monster for us, because every time a +1/+1 lands on that Friendly Spirit, it's really +2/+2. So that, and then also doubly, which we do see in the shop, is somewhat interesting in terms of being able to put the +1/+1s on. And there's also the answer to my question from my patch notes the other day. We can see that doubly does not have the third dwarf in the background until you triple it. So I was curious about that, but that is definitely a nice little touch to make that feel like a cool, unique character, like it should. And we are also going to have Friendly Spirit land on a ranged character. That aspect of it is nice. So feeling pretty good about where our game currently is, and I'm going to start off 4.1 by feeding Cindy to the Kraken, giving us some extra gold, some extra triggers, and a tier 2 treasure. And I don't really like either Noble Steed or the bonus XP. I just want to roll for monster books for the time being, and there are some really good tier 3 treasures that could definitely help us out here in terms of Crystal Ball and Merlin's hat, though I already kind of spoiled this is going to be ballless mages. At least I think. I don't actually know for sure. I just know that we find the monster book on 4.1, really 4.0, but 4.1 for us. And this is a pretty big power spike. It might be hard to see how big of a power spike it is just right off the rip, but it's going to be able to give both of our Wizard's Familiars +1/+1 and our Spellweaver +1 attack, while also giving +1 to something else. Now, one thing that I could have done here, and I might consider in some future combats, is backlining one or both of those Wizard's Familiars, so that way my monster books are guaranteed to die first, and we'll make sure to grab all of those bonuses. This was a very close combat, just barely losing there, so really unfortunate, but we'll take a little bit more damage before tripling up the Wizard's Familiar, and that's definitely a nice big boon to the game. And then another Friendly Spirit, also a pretty big boon. We'll fire off a Candy Rain after that to spread some more stats around on the spirits and on the Wizard's Familiar as well. Great Book of Spells is just cool to have more access to more spells. I actually don't hate the idea of potentially picking up some other tier 2 treasures, but one thing that we could just do is skip the treasure and then pick up the Wizard's Familiar. And I'm definitely going to be backlining this one. I can unlock this shop now as well, but the Wizard's Familiar in the front should be big enough that it will survive while the monster book dies. And then that second Wizard's Familiar 1/1 will backline that, so that has a little bit more chances to grow here. But this is looking like a pretty good start for Classic Merlin. Unfortunately, we're going to have both of our mages get wrecked in the back from a fireball, so that part is a little bit unfortunate. But Friendly Spirit lands on Friendly Spirit, which is actually just enough to tie the combat. That is a bunch of stats when that can happen, and just really exciting. I'm going to be trying to take as much advantage of that as possible throughout the game. We have to cast a spell here, so might as well be another XP spell. And then I'm just rolling for some more monster books here on 5.1. Could sell something and take a Cupid, and I don't even think it would be a terrible idea to just sell off our backline Wizard's Familiar here. But I wind up holding off on, holding on to the mages here for another second. And even though we've invested a bunch into this Sherwood Shore Shot, we're going to go full mages. We're going to pick up another monster book, and I'm pretty excited about this as well. Now we're casting 2 spells during each of our combats, and we are providing +2/+2 to our various characters. We've got 2 Friendly Spirits, so we're pretty likely for some of those bonuses to land on those throughout our various combats. And again, if those can land on each other, that is also pretty nice. Honestly, I don't love that my Wizard's Familiar keeps dying so early and not getting any of the bonuses, but it got to trade with a Lightning Dragon, so that was a pretty good trade for us. And we'll take a win on Puffy. However, we won't take any of these treasures. All of these treasures are kind of terrible. We could take Eye of Ares, try to grab some ties, but I'm just going to skip, pick up a Friendly Spirit, and look for something with the word spell on it. Unfortunately, that's not going to come for us here, so I'm just going to take the Gloves of Thieving. I think it's just the best treasure otherwise, and we'll add that to our board now. Picking up any health potions that you see, any health potions or Potion of Heroisms or Mix-a-Wizzles, because you can continue to cast spells after those. And we actually have a tough decision to make, because I want the Wizard's Familiars, I want all of the mages that we can get, but I'm not going to be able to pick both that up and Aeon unless I cast Feed the Kraken. And I don't really want to feed any of my characters to the Kraken. So instead I'm going to lock onto the second Wizard's Familiar and go for these Hermes Magic Beans. And now with Aeon on the board, every time a monster book casts a spell, all of our mages get +1 attack. Our Wizard's Familiars both get +1/+1 or +2/+2 for the upgraded one. And the Spellweaver is getting an additional +1 from its own ability. In addition to that, our spells are 1 cheaper this turn, so that is also pretty sweet. and we're level 6, and we stole an absolutely massive Vampire. So pretty soon we're going to have trouble just playing all of the cards that we want to play. I want to play all these monster books. I want to play the Aeons. I even kind of want to play a tree. I mean, it's 6.0. We're up 2 XP on the rest of the lobby. It's hard not to just pick up an Ashwood Elm at this point. Don't exactly know where this game is going from this point, but similarly, it is actually kind of cool to scale up in Ashwood Elm. Because those stats that you get on Ashwood Elm, and I meant similarly to the Friendly Spirit, the stats that you get on Ashwood Elm are going to also bump up your Burning Beards and such. So it's really not a bad bet to just pick up an Ashwood Elm at this stage of the game. And even though we're already level 6, these Polywoggles are speaking to me. There is a trio of Polywoggles in the shop, so I'm going to pick up one, lock onto the other 2, and see if we can't make something silly happen. Despite not having too many ways to pump the Polywoggle, we do have Friendly Spirit, and if that lands on Polywoggle, that will of course be an evil slay, or an easy slay is what I meant to say. Freudian slip there, and we'll pick up that Polywoggle triple now. I am also going to go for a Beauty's Influence on the Ashwood Elm, though I don't really care about any of these treasures. We're going to skip on by those. I do have to decide if I want to pick up Spellweaver, and I think I'm kind of past that at this point in the game. I really want to try to use my early game advantage to now give us some more time to move into something else. That's at least what I was thinking, at least until I saw Scion of the Storm, which is just a really, really powerful card because we've already cast so many spells this game. So I do at least have to think about playing Scion of the Storm, and will probably want to. And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna wind up picking it up here. But the question is, like, do I want to stay in mages, or do I want to try to pivot? And a lot of that's going to come down to this Polywoggle. If we're able to make this Polywoggle slay, who's got a 1 in 3 chance of Friendly Spirit landing on Polywoggle, and it works. So we're going to get to slay here with a Polywoggle, and turns out we are playing mages. We're going to grab an upgraded Scion of the Storm off that upgraded Polywoggle. Now it's time to move into mages. I'm going to cast Potion of Heroism on Aeon, and I also locked for this Kidnap. Now it's a little bit awkward against Sadrak. I don't really want to just steal a Lightning Dragon from them or something, but taking a Kidnap when you already have Gloves of Thieving is just really, really strong, because it means you either get to steal 2 upgraded characters, in which case you potentially have a brand new build at that point, or you get to steal 2 non-upgraded characters, which is decent progress towards creating another treasure. So definitely considering that. Then I see the Burning Beard. So I'm also thinking trees are a possibility, but with this upgraded Scion of the Storm, I think that's the direction that we want to go in. And now we even get to throw an upgrade on that monster book, which is really nice, and pick up Krampus's Slay. So we are stealing some stuff from this Sadrak. We're going to steal 2 of their characters and potentially a treasure if we win this combat, and we're going to be strong enough to do it. We're also going to steal upgraded Friendly Spirits from this Sadrak, which can be really, really powerful. Like I said, when Friendly Spirits can land on each other, things can go absolutely crazy. We also take the Sadrak out, which means we get to steal Deck of Many Things, which is a really, really good treasure for Merlin, because every time you cast a spell, it's just like a monster book. You'll get to give something +1/+1. So we can now play a whole front line filled with Friendly Spirits, and that is just way, way too powerful. I don't want to pass up this opportunity. Might even cast a Wormroot on some of these Friendly Spirits here. I'm going to decline to do that. Blessing of Athena, also pretty good, giving each of them +1/+1, and then some additional stats to all of my benched characters as well. But ultimately, I'm going to decide I want to just roll for more Scions of the Storm here, try to grab a tier 6 treasure. I think that's my best way out of it. I don't need to dream, but what I could also do is Knighthood my existing Scion of the Storm. So now we've got 2 absolutely massive Scions. We've got 3 Friendly Spirits, plus a monster book and a ranged character. This is super strong for just a basic Merlin comp where we have not scaled, we have not grabbed any crystal balls or done anything crazy. Friendly Spirit lands on the Friendly Spirit. That's going to be enough to easily take this game from my Dwarves opponent. And then we're on to the finals. It's us versus the Fates. And I guess I won't spoil anything just yet, but first and foremost, we are going to go for a pair of Mix-a-Wizzles onto our Wizard's Familiar, and that gives us an upgraded monster book with even more stats than the one that we had. So pretty crazy stuff. Definitely going to want to throw that in. There was an Echo Wood. There is some cheeky stuff you could do with Echo Wood. We're definitely set up like this is almost a copycat comp. Everything's got so many last breaths here, but I think we're just going to try to play as strong of things as we can. I am noticing that my opponent still has a lot of health, and so do we. So I'm thinking maybe we want to grab a tier 6 treasure. And I'm not sure if this is right, but I figured maybe the friendly spirits will land on it and we can activate it in one combat and it's basically free. At the very least, it seemed silly enough to try. So we'll try it out, see what we can do. My opponent gets a little bit of scam off on my friendly spirits, kind of unfortunate. We won't get full value from that second one. That was off of their deck of many things. Pretty crazy stuff going on. They double shrunk us with rotten apples with their wand, and then their deck of many things cast an earthquake. So pretty good, but not going to be good enough. We do walk away with a win and some damage onto my opponent, who, by the way, didn't really get to talk about it. You guys probably saw it on the screen. They're basically playing the same thing as us. Deck of many things, Wand of Weirding, Value Mages, Spellweaver even, but we're just doing it better. So we are definitely looking pretty strong now for this finals. We really just have to dodge the Cupid so that way our Scions don't bump heads and take each other out. And short of that, I think we're going to be in a pretty good spot. And then we find even more Scions of the Storm here. So pretty crazy. We steal a Doom Breath from my opponent though. I don't think that that one is going to be super relevant. I don't even know if we need to pick up these Scions because we already have so much going on this board, but I think it's just too sweet not to. They're also, I mean, we just saw my opponent's board. We know what they're playing, and these are going to be bigger than everything that my opponent's doing. And then I'm going to frontline my Scions, switch up my board a little bit here just to, those can like trade 2 for 1 or 3 for 1 on all of their characters, and this should be able to get us a win. And then I'm going to Pigomorph to finish some things off. So we've got Pigomorph, we've got the deck of many things, and we are definitely crushing it here. Our Wizard's Familiar is no longer a monster book, so that part's smarts, but the rest of it should be able to take my opponent out pretty easy. We're going to fire back with some spells, and then I'm going to hit them for a few more spells here with my book. That's not going to give us any scams. It is going to deal some damage, and then we take out that Cupid. That is the important part of the fight. Just taking out that Cupid early, quickly is enough to win. 96% are there, and we get a nice little win with a mage mirror match there in the final. So both of us kind of just going for this classic mage comp. It can definitely work, especially when you are playing Merlin. That's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'm No Licks Given. Peace.